Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Matters of Faith, the radio show. Matters of
Good
Faith is
evening,
a show
everybody,
designed to
and
bring
welcome to
issues of
Matters of
interest to
Faith, the
you, the
radio
listening
show.
audience, that will challenge, encourage, motivate, and inspire you to keep the faith. I am your host, the Reverend Dr. J. Lauren Russell, and it's my job to engage you in stimulating dialogue that's inspiring, encouraging, motivating, dialogue and conversations that will help you build your determination, your commitment, and your character. Conversations that will help you keep the faith. Everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. 1 John 5 and 4. And now, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, without further ado, it is time for Matters of Faith, the radio show. Good evening, everybody. Good evening.
Hey,
Don't
come on, stop playing around.
Good evening again, everyone. It's Monday, November 27th. It's 8 o'clock, and it's time for Matters of Faith, the radio show. I am your host and producer, Reverend Dr. J. Lauren Russell. We are on Facebook Live, Matters of Faith, as well as the J. Lauren Russell Facebook groups. Telephone, tell a friend. They don't want to miss this show tonight. We've got a phenomenal guest, and Mr. Gregory Anderson. Trust me, you do not want to miss this show tonight. Telephone, tell a friend. Information is going to be flowing. Make sure you have your pen and paper handy because you're going to get some information that you do not want to miss. Matters of Faith is our topic tonight, and our guest is Gregory Anderson. Telephone and tell a friend. Don't forget to support our advertisers and our sponsors, the JLR Company and J. Lauren Russell Consulting LLC, for all of your church financial consulting needs. Check out our website, www.jlaurenrussell.consulting.com. That's www.jlaurenrussellconsulting.com. Or simply give us a call, 718-328-8096. 718-328-8096. If you want to train your trustees, if you want to develop your property, if you need a church loan, give us a call. We'll be there to help. Matters of Faith, the book, can be purchased at my Cash App, $Matters of Faith. The cost of the book is $22.80. That's $22.80. You can send your check or money order to the JLR Company, Post Office Box 301, New York, New York 10035. That's Post Office Box 301, New York, New York 10035. Get the book. It will absolutely bless your life. You can also get it as an ebook. All you need to do is go to www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. That's www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. The book has no shipping and handling if you get it as an ebook. And also check out the Eat Okra app for all black-owned restaurants all over the nation. That's right, Eat Okra. And finally, subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Let me add just one more thing. Get your subscription to Better Mag magazine today. A 2-year subscription is only $27.50. That's www.abettermag.com. www.abettermag.com. Don't. Good evening again, everyone. It's Monday, November 27th. It's 8 o'clock, and it's time for Matters of Faith, the radio show. I am your host and producer, Reverend Dr. J. Lauren Russell. We are on Facebook Live, Matters of Faith, as well as the J. Lauren Russell Facebook groups. Telephone, tell a friend. They don't want to miss this show tonight. We've got a phenomenal guest, and Mr. Gregory Anderson. Trust me, you do not want to miss this show tonight. Telephone, tell a friend. Information is going to be flowing. Make sure you have your pen and paper handy because you're going to get some information that you do not want to miss. Matters of Faith is our topic tonight, and our guest is Gregory Anderson. Don't forget to support our advertisers. And now the article, Matters of Faith. That article can be found in my column Matters of Faith in the Bronx Chronicle, www.thebronxchronicle.com, the Yonkers Insider, www.yonkersinsider.blogspot.com, Better Mag Magazine, www.abettermag.com, and Pamela's Big Heart newsletter, Matters of Faith. Hebrews chapter 11, verses 1 through 3, and then verse 6 from the New King James Version. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtained a good testimony. By faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which are visible. But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder to those who diligently seek him. Matters of faith. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in a hotel room in Easley, South Carolina, trying unsuccessfully to get onto the internet to broadcast that Monday night's episode of Matters of Faith, the radio show. A regular viewer called me just to give me a word of encouragement. I took the liberty to share with her my inability to get online and my apprehension that I wouldn't be able to broadcast. She suggested that I do something I had never done before, a Facebook Live broadcast. What a surprise I had when 750 people joined in almost immediately when I went live. I remember saying to myself, I'm going to do this all the time. Matters of Faith began as a column and article that first appeared in the Bronx Chronicle in 2014. The intention was to share God's Word by providing a theological perspective and a practical application of the Word of God to everyday issues. It was birthed in faith without knowing where the column would go, who it would touch, or how long it would last, but wanting to be obedient and please God. I hoped it would be a blessing to a wide and diverse audience near and far. I hoped it would be all those things and more. When I got a notification from Facebook that this past Tuesday was the 8th anniversary of my first Matters of Faith broadcast as its own Facebook group, I saw the substance of things I had hoped for and the evidence of things that could not be seen at the beginning. The column is still running in 5 publications and has become a broadcast. And the message now reaches people from shore to shore and nation to nation. The author of Hebrews was right on point when he said, he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. When God calls you to go, it only takes one person with faith. The 11th chapter of Hebrews lists several people who stepped out on faith. One person with a call from God, convicted by the Holy Spirit, walking with faith is all it takes. I'm grateful for the 9 years of writing and the 8 years of broadcasting. The Lord knows if I can do it, anybody can. It's just a matter of faith. Be blessed. And now here's my question. How can faith take you to places you have never been, do things you never did, and become the person you hoped you could be? Can I ask it again? How can faith take you to places you have never been, do things you never did, and become the person you hoped you could be? Now this gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce to some and to present to others my guest for tonight. Gregory Anderson joined Bridge Street Development in 2019 with over 25 years of public finance investment banking experience, having served as a managing director with several Wall Street firms including Labenthal and Company, Adbest Incorporated, W.R. Lazard, Dean Witter, and Salomon Brothers. Throughout his career in public finance, Gregory completed over $5 billion of financing for state and local affordable housing and economic development finance agencies nationally, and assisted in the development and implementation of many housing finance innovations and programs designed to revitalize low-income neighborhoods through rehabilitating aging housing stock and expanding home ownership opportunities. Gregory has served as a member of the board of directors and former board chair of We Act for Environmental Justice. He is also on the board of the South Harlem Reds baseball program. Gregory is most proud of his Bridge Street Development Corporation, a 501c3 nonprofit organization with a mission to provide civic and economic opportunities to the residents of Central Brooklyn with an emphasis on low to moderate income residents. This is done by building partnerships with businesses, government, and other community stakeholders. Since 1995, Bridge Street has continuously worked to serve the Bedford-Stuyvesant and Central Brooklyn community and has become a trusted provider of information, education, housing, and social services, as well as a convener of community engagement activities. Bridge Street's strategic priorities and primary programs and services are within 7 distinct and interrelated program areas. Number 1, youth workshop development and civic engagement. Number 2, support services and affordable housing for older adults with services to the migrant community. Number 3, community engagement and advocacy. Number 4, affordable housing, real estate development. Number 5, economic development and financial empowerment. Number 6, restorative justice. And number 7, strategic partnerships. Gregory is married and has been with Elwanda Young for the last 13 years, and they have 5 children between them and 5 grandchildren. So, Matters of Faith family, would you welcome with me tonight my guest, this brother who has become a quick brother and a friend, Gregory Anderson. Okay, did I get it? I get you in there right?
I think you got me in there right, my brother.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds good. Hey, listen, I read your bio. They know a little bit about you, just a little bit, because that's just a snapshot. But why don't you tell us something about you that we don't know and we really should know about you?
Well, I guess what you don't know and should know is really the answer to your question. How can faith get us to be who we want to be, who we think we could be, who we dream we could be? But without faith, we have no chance of being that. What you should know about me is that it's taken me over 60 years to find my mother's faith and to really use it. I grew up in Harlem, the third of 6 kids, grew up in public housing. I collect quotes, so you hear me say a number of quotes, and some of whom I can attribute, some I won't. But I have a good friend, one of my many mentors, who once said he didn't realize that he grew up poor until he got to college. For me, I think I realized that in kindergarten. But growing up in that building, in that project, that building was a community. And so when I talk about finding my mother's faith through all the difficulties, she's going to be 94 this month. But, we were public assistants for a time, and I saw her, go from doing domestic work. And then when my father got ill, she was always a great cook. She became worked for the Board of Ed, in the cafeteria, the dietitian assistant. So I seen her, become the breadwinner, and throughout everything, throughout all the problems, throughout all the difficulties, what she would always say is, God will provide. God will provide. And it's taken me a long time to own that, to really understand that. That the Wall Street career and that wasn't me, that was God. And it took me a long time to understand that. I started working on the street, and I was one of the few people of color. And so with that, in many meetings, I was the only Black person in the room. And with that came this sort of crisis of confidence. But prior to that, I grew up in Emmanuel AME Church on 119th Street. And there was always this sense early in my life that God or something was out there pulling strings on my behalf. And, working on Wall Street, I think it was the time I got the first big bonus and first big promotion. And I think I literally said to God, thanks for your help. I think I can handle it from here. And as you can imagine, thus began the dark days. So the thing of faith for me is realizing, what my mother always said was everything we will ever need will always be provided. But I think the substance of faith is that substance that goes from a hope, a dream, a desire to true faith and making things happen. And that's knowing that it's done through God, done by
Mm.
God. I went to a point in my career where I thought I did this, and as soon as I kind of moved away from God, things started going downhill. And so it just took a while to regain the faith and find the faith and know that so what you don't know about me is what everyone knows about themselves is that somewhere inside there's this doubt. There's a goal, there's a dream, but there's this doubt. And faith for me is that constant battle of putting trust
Mm.
before fear. I
Mm.
One of the things I read, and I think it goes back to the Native American indigenous culture. The thing about there are two wolves. There's the faith wolf and the fear wolf. Whichever one I feed is the one that grows.
Mm-hmm.
When I feed my faith, I'm showing up, I'm trusting, I'm doing what I think God wants me to do. When I feed my fear, I'm worrying. I'm angry, I'm arguing. It's the difference between am I being positive or negative. I'm doubting. So for me, it's the thing of finding faith and using faith every day when I show up. And I'll pause there.
Well, no, that was I actually enjoyed that. You said a lot. I was actually taking some notes, and I heard a number of different things that you said that really intrigued me. The 60-year piece actually got to me right away, 60 plus years growing up in Harlem, and then the point that you said to the Lord, okay, I think I got it now, thanks a lot for the help. I got this. Um, and then you realize that, you know what, you can't really get anything without having God got you. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You've got to have that hand on you, because if you try to do it yourself, there's nothing before you except failure and a whole lot of it. So you said a number of things that really kind of connected with me. And your mom, particularly being, she said she'll be 94 years old this year.
Yes, the 29th of December.
That is absolutely a blessing. I mean, that is such a blessing. My mom passed away when I was like 14.
Mm.
So I tip my hat to you that you have a mom that you can look to, that you can lean on and still glean from, is an amazing thing, because so many people take it for granted. But I'm hearing that you're not. I'm hearing that you're not. And I'm listen, if I had a mom around, I would be sitting at her bedside. I'd be sitting at her lap side. I put my head right in her apron just to hear her talk, because she had such wisdom.
If she's listening, she's saying, Reverend Russell, tell him to get over here right now.
Well, you tell her that I'd be there. I'd be there right away. I nothing I enjoy more than sitting down and gleaning from people who have experience. It doesn't make you, now this is interesting, I'm gonna say this too. Just because you got age doesn't make you wise. Because we got a lot of children dying of old age. Got a whole lot of that. And one of the reasons that we have that is because people are not walking in their faith. They're walking in their own personal reality. Like you said, I got this. Maybe you got the promotion, maybe you got the job, maybe you were the only person of color in a room, and it made you feel like, you know what, I have arrived. And the work's just begun. The work's just begun. So I like the part you also said, that your mom always said, God will provide. God will provide. And with that, when you were at Emmanuel AME Church as a child growing up, you said you felt that pull of God in your life, but for one reason or another, did not yield. That's what I heard you say. I didn't say it. That's what I heard you say. So you didn't yield to that. And I get that, because Lord knows I have been there. I have been the one who resisted a lot. In fact, I remember the Lord calling me, and I pulled my covers up over my head and said, "No, no, no, no,"
Right.
because I didn't want to do that. I did not want to do that. Even when I was an adult, when he called me again, I was like, "Lord, can I do something else? Can I like be a motivational speaker or something? Can I um just be the best salesperson I possibly can?" And by the way, we do have, I did a little research on you. We do have something in common. We both worked at New York Life.
Yes, yes, that's where I worked before joining Bridge Street.
Is that right?
That's right. And to really tell you, again, it's some people say, the Lord moves in mysterious ways. So God works in mysterious ways. And for me, there's no more mystery. God just works. The mystery is my lack of understanding, my lack of openness to how God works. Because like you said, no, I want to do motivational speaker. God is saying, here, this is what I have for you. And I'm saying, well, no. I said that God's calling, but the line is busy. I've got God on call waiting, and when it gets through, it goes to voicemail, and God is hearing, the voicemail is full. Try again later. But the thing of resisting where we are drawn to go. And so when I joined Bridge Street 4 years ago, there was a part of me that was asking the question, how did I end up here? Bridge Street was the first nonprofit that I've been an employee of, although much of my career in public finance was doing financings for and on behalf of nonprofits. And what I've come to realize, and this is where the faith and the trust and the giving way, what I've come to realize is that, this is the job I've been preparing for my entire life. Or better said, this is the job that God has been preparing me for my entire life. And so it is a thing of, and this is the job, I haven't worked on Wall Street, in many ways, this is the most challenging, the most rewarding, and the scariest in terms of what it takes to show up every day and truly be of service to the community. And just a bit about Bridge Street Development Corporation. The corporation was founded in faith. Bridge Street Development Corporation was founded in 1995 by the Bridge Street AME Church. And the Bridge Street AME Church is one of the oldest African-American congregations in New York. The church is known nationally for its social justice work, having been a stop on the Underground Railroad and having had such dignitaries as Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass speak from his pulpit. So, you talk about standing on the shoulders of faith, standing on the shoulders of the substance. The substance of this organization is based in faith. And so for me, I always say I have the honor and privilege of serving as president and CEO. But you and I were at a conference together, and one of the things that the keynote speaker, Dr. George Frazier, mentioned, and when he spoke, it was a wonderful conference. There were a lot of great speakers, but when he spoke, there was something that he was talking about that stirred, and he talked about what a true leader is, and I'll paraphrase it to organizations as opposed to businesses. But he said that a true leader doesn't build a business. A true leader doesn't build an organization. A true leader builds up people, and those people build the organization. And so I think all of our work at Bridge Street Development is building up people, building up our community, and then allowing our community to build a stronger community. Our motto at Bridge Street is building on community strength. And I believe our greatest strength lies within the people of our community. So it is the thing of showing up And one of my predecessors at Bridge Street, Scovin Granum, and I heard him speak after his retirement, and he surprised me when he said, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me quoting him, that every day before he went to work, he'd go to church and say, "God, please help me because I have no idea what I'm doing today." You know, and you know, that's something that most people would not think that a leader would say. But to me, it's kind of how I start my day every day. You know, saying to God, "I don't know. Please help me." My two favorite prayers are help and thank you. And I say them early and often every day. And the thing of not knowing, someone once said to me that not knowing is a good thing. It's like going to God with an empty cup and saying, "You fill it up." Because so often what I go to God with is what I think I want, what I think I need, what I think, and so emptying the cup and saying, "God, here I am, use me, let me be your vessel." Um, I can pause, but I actually want to come back to your true example of faith. And one of the things that I liked about your article, um, because you say you bring a practical application of the Word of God to everyday issues, and that to me is how the transition for me of how taking this faith and God and all of this that I must admit in many ways I truly didn't understand. But how do I make it show up in my life every day? I can go to church on Sunday or Monday morning when I go to work and dealing with everything. How do I use my faith every day? And so it is the example you gave, and it was a great one. You were trying unsuccessfully, to get onto the internet, and then the phone rang. You got a call. Part of your faith was taking the call, not saying I can't take that call. I got to get this. I got to figure this out. And then someone, was sent to give you another way, and you acted on that. And so let me, before I say another word, congratulate you on 8 years, of doing this via Facebook because you were open. You were open to receive, help along the way. That in the midst of doing something that you couldn't get done. And so for me, that is the thing of being open to the possibilities. Of the thing I've learned, and I've been just very blessed and fortunate to have many mentors along the way, and help was always there. And quite often I didn't want to hear it. I wasn't, but to become open to receive the help I needed is something that has been really important for me.
I want to talk about that telephone call that came in because you're right. I said I saw the name. I said I recognize the name, so I don't want to not answer the phone because it would be rude. And so I answered the phone, and it was amazing that they had this recommendation. And Debbie, she's a friend of mine. She's done some wonderful things. We've been good friends for a number of years. She made this recommendation. Now, the interesting thing about this whole scenario is that less than 2 months after that, my producers on the radio show lost their contract. I no longer could do it on radio. And I wound up doing it exclusively on Facebook. Because what I started to do was that I would do the broadcast, but I would simultaneously do a Facebook broadcast. So people were looking at me, but the radio show was a call-in show, so people could call in. And just around that time that my producers lost their contract, people started to what they call Zoom, or not, they didn't call it Zoom, but radio bombing. They would call with these recorded messages that were just nasty and demonic possessed. That's what I call it. They were demonically possessed. And so I had to stop letting people call in. And so I started to do the Facebook. And then I found out about this new, maybe it wasn't new to everybody, it was new to me, this new technological advance called Zoom. And I realized you could simultaneously, you could do a live broadcast and use Zoom, and the technology allows me to talk to you very, very carefully, very, very closely, and have it go to Facebook, which I think is absolutely an incredible thing. Now, the Lord has revealed to me that I'm going to change that platform. I'm going to start doing them on YouTube in January. So I'm gonna go to that platform and see how that works out. But but that's why I tell everybody, and I tell them again, please, like and friend the Matters of Faith YouTube channel, because we're gonna go there in January. It's only a month or so away. So please, guys, please, girls, please make sure that you friend and like and share the Matters of Faith YouTube channel, because we're gonna make another leap of faith. We're gonna step into the world of YouTube and see how that works.
Yeah, that's a great add-on to a great story, because what it really is also saying is, had that not happened, had you not been unsuccessful, you
Yep.
you might have been scrambling when the producers.
Yep.
So, and it reminds me of a story on my side. So that's a little different. It was just many years ago, and I won't go into the long version of the story, but I got a tax bill from the IRS that at that moment, there was no way I could pay it. And I was really worried, the fear and everything. And then I got one of those registered mail things. There was a letter, there was something at the post office,
Right.
waiting for me. And of course, that fear wolf,
Right.
it's the IRS, they putting the lien, and it ended up being a check from a company I hadn't worked for many years. A
Wow.
check that I wasn't expecting, and it happened to be in an amount sufficient to pay the IRS and leave me a little bit of change. So I called one of my mentors, and I'll talk more about part of that spiritual journey. And I said, God came through once again, but I really wish he wasn't like the cavalry riding up the 11th hour to save the day. And so this guy said to me, well, the only reason it seems like the 11th hour is your lack of faith.
There you go. That's what I would have told you. That's exactly what I was.
Where were you then?
Exactly.
Because but that, I think that's what we do. We let the fear overwhelm us. And we don't have the faith that whatever it is, it's going to work out.
Right.
I tell a number of people, my mentor or some of our youth, some of our youth programs. One thing I tell everyone is they can have my job. Just like you said at the end, if I can do it, anybody can. But the other thing of just having trust that it's going to work out, and the things, and even when it doesn't feel like it's working out, even when it doesn't look like it's going to work out, I can look back at different events in my life and say that when they happened, I thought it was the absolute worst thing that could have happened. Looking back years later, and understanding how things unfolded, I can look back and say, you know what? That was actually the best thing that could have happened. But you don't feel that when you're in the middle of chaos.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, when it's raining, you get wet.
Yeah. Well, and what I've learned is, and if I'm getting wet and I don't have the umbrella, the thing I kind of remind myself before I go too far down that rabbit hole of fear is I pause and say, okay, God, where's the gift in this one? Because whatever the crisis may be, there's a gift in there somewhere. If I'm willing to see it, look for it, and receive it.
Yep, no doubt about it. You mentioned George Frazier's name, and then you were talking about some of the things that have come up in life that kind of look like they are the obstacles that stop you from getting where it is that you're trying to go.
George said something very, very interesting. George said the obstacle is the path.
Yes.
Without the obstacles, you're on the wrong path. Because if it's smooth, and I was preaching about, I thought about that a lot. It really touched my heart because every time I look back over my life and I look at where he's brought me from, there have been obstacles and all kinds of things. But what he said made so much sense. He said, when you run into the obstacle, what you're trying to figure out is how to get around it, over it, through it, or just to get past it. Right? So that when you get to the next one, you're prepared for it because you've had that experience before. If it was smooth sailing, you know, if you took two smooth surfaces and you put them together, they just slide right off each other. There's nothing to grip it. And I was saying this before I heard him speak. I said, and before I heard him even say that, I was talking to people about being together. In fact, you know, I'm a Rotarian. I'm the district governor for Rotary at this year. And so you know, we are the most here in New York City. We're in Staten Island, Manhattan, the Bronx, Lower Westchester, and Bermuda. And I tell them all, we are the most diversified district in the world, and that's true. We're the most diversified district in the world. With I'm talking about diversity across every kind of thing you can think about: socioeconomic, race, religion, everything. The most diversified, and the diversity makes us better. It doesn't make us bitter. It makes us better. And so we're like Velcro. When you put us together, you have to pull Velcro apart because it doesn't come apart just because you release it. You have to pull it apart. The obstacles that we have, the obstacles that we face, the obstacles that we endure are the things that make us who we are. They make us better. So every time when you just talked about it yourself, Gregory, when you talked about how like that worst thing turned out to be the best thing. And everything in my life has looked like that. I'm talking about everything because I've had some tough times. I'm like you. I was born in Harlem. I was born in Harlem Hospital. That's my place, right? And I was raised in the Bronx. I'm a native New Yorker, you know, one of the few like you. And so I've seen some very challenging times in my life, but every one of those things have been stepping stones if I could recognize it as such. Because if not, then they became stumbling blocks.
Well, and I think that's where, coming back to faith, you know, evidence of things not seen.
That's right.
Because I think part of the problem we have with faith is, you know, we want to know. You know, before I do this, it's gonna work.
Yeah.
You know, what's gonna happen? And we don't know. We can't know. And so it's stepping out on faith, and assuming that all of those things that look like obstacles are just things along the path to prepare us for the next thing along the path.
That's
You
right.
know, and one of the quotes, again, I can't remember who said it, but you know, my faith should be based on my experience of God's presence in my life. And it's remembering those obstacles, remembering the hard times, remembering that I got through it. You know, because, well, you know, fear helps me to forget, you know, because every new crisis is the biggest thing that ever happened, you know. And, you know, someone once said to me, what were you most worried about last month? And most of the time, I can't remember. But I can tell you it was something, you know. So the thing of, you know, faith is, for me, is, someone said to me, those who pray don't worry.
Those who worry.
You know, and so when I find myself, yes. And so, and it's a choice. Faith is a muscle.
Right.
I've got to exercise it. I've got to work it. You know, and so that's the thing of continually, because you know, fear has many tentacles and it comes at us 1,000 different ways. So the thing about the obstacles really being the things that prepare us. What I say to a lot of our youth, when I speak to them, is the only obstacles we really need to get through and over are the ones we create for ourselves up here and in here. You know, and again, for me, it's the obstacles that tell me I can't, I shouldn't, somebody else is going to stop me. one of the things I learned was give other people the opportunity to say no. And if they say no, just keep moving because someone will say
Now
yes.
that's interesting. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you just said something. I don't want to forget this one. This is important. This is going back to my New York life days. When I was in sales. What did you were you in sales marketing?
Yeah. It was my first experience in true sales, and I pray to God my last.
Well,
Because
I
I was
started in
always in
sales.
marketing,
Yep.
even in public finance.
Yep. I was in sales and I became a manager. But it was interesting, right? They gave us a formula, right? They gave us a formula. They called it the wheel of activity. I'll never, ever forget it. One of the best lessons I ever learned in my life. They said to us, you have to make X number of calls. Well, let's start from the beginning. You have X number of names that you can call every week. The number magically is 60. You need 60 new names a week. Like 60. I'm 24 years old. 60 years a week. Okay, so I need 60. Then you need to reach 40 of them. So, okay. You will see on average, you'll make 15 appointments with them. You will wind up seeing 12 of them. Only 9 of them will be qualified to purchase. And of the 9, only 3 will say yes. And of the 3 who says yes, the average is 2 that will actually result in a sale that you'll get paid for. I said, hold on. Wait a minute. We're starting with 60. We lose 20 right off the bat, right? From 60 to 40, you lose 20 right off the bat. Then from 40, you drop to 15. That's 25 if my math is right. And from the 15, you go down to 9. That's another 5. And then from the 9, you get down to 3. That's another 6. And then the 6, you get down to 2. That's another 1. So I said, wait a minute, that's 58 no's. That's 58 people either telling you directly or indirectly, no. 58. You have to have endurability. You have to be able to endure. So what I started to do is I started to look for no. I actually looked for people to say no to me. In fact, I would help them. I say, you're not ready for this. I'll tell you what, let me call you back in 6 months. Is that okay with you? Yeah, that'd be fine. Thank you. Hang up. And I used to literally take my pen and I would stroke 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I would count the no's. Because I knew that when I got down to those 2, that those 2 were going to result in a sale. And what my manager told me, he said, you will make more money you ever made in your life. And I figured, you know what? I've been trying a lot of things myself. Let me see whether or not your formula can work. And I became the #1 new salesperson in my office and did it 2 years in a row. And then they made me a manager. So the obstacle became a building block. I didn't look at it as a problem. I looked at it as a part of the solution. I had to get those 58. And then what happened is through the experience, I didn't have to get 58 anymore to get 2. In fact, I got more than 2 because I figured the formula out, and now my ratios changed. So I could come in with 25 and wind up with 5 or 6 or 7. So every Monday when we got together for our meeting, and they would say, well, how many appointments did you have? And I said, oh, I had 25 appointments. How many closings did you have? I had 18 closings. How many applications did you write? I wrote 9. So they were like, my colleagues were blown away, but I used the strategy that they told me as a way to move into the positive, because it can, whichever way you look at it, that's what it's going to be. If you look at it as a negative, it's a negative. If you look at it as a positive, it's a positive. I didn't look at it as a problem at all. I said, hey, you know what? I got to go through there. In order for me to get where I'm going, I've got to go through these 58 no's. But when I get to the yeses, I'll be happy.
And and the way I summarize that, because I think, every no brings me closer to that ultimate yes.
Yep.
And so you become to embrace the no's.
Yep.
Instead of most people look at the no as a negative and want to take it personally. No, it's part of the process. Part of the process towards that ultimate yes. Now, did I hear you say you started at New York Life in your 20s?
I did.
I started in my 50s, and so I couldn't withstand the hustle required to get to 60 and to 58.
Well, yeah, no, it's a different time. You know, I tell you, let me give you and the audience a little bit background, right? When I was younger, I always worked. My dad was an upholsterer. I would go to work with my dad on Saturdays, and he would pay me to work with him. So I never did summer youth or anything like that. I worked with my dad, right? So my father taught me. I know how to fix furniture. I choose not to do that, but I know how to fix furniture. My father was one of the greatest upholsterers anybody's ever seen, no doubt about it. I choose not to do that. However, I did that, and then I became I became a DJ. So I used to promote my own parties, right? People used to hire me to do their parties. But then back in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, you know, you lugged a lot of stuff around to be a DJ. You know, you had all this equipment, you had to carry them records and stuff, and you got to set up, you got to break down. I mean, it was a lot of work just getting there to do the work. And then they would give you $100, $150, but they're making $3,000 and $4,000. I said, something's wrong with this picture here. I don't get this. So I started promoting my own parties. I started promoting my own things because I said, well, if I'm going to play the music, I'm going to do all this work. I may as well get a bigger bang for my buck. And that's exactly what I did. So I've always had this entrepreneurial mind, but I never had anyone to really teach me because my dad, around that time, when I became a man at the age of 20, my dad died. So my mom died when I told you I was 14. So my dad died when I was 20. So I had no one to sort of help me navigate the waters. So when I got to New York Life, and first I was trying to do it my way, right? Because I've been doing this stuff, right? But then I said, you know what? This is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. I don't have nothing. If I don't learn from these, I've always said, if somebody gives me a chance, I'll show them what I can do. And they gave me a chance. And after I stopped getting in my own way, then I let them teach me. And I learned well. So I learned how to take the negatives and move them and make them positives. And I learned some of the most valuable lessons in my life because I began, more than anything else, to allow people to help me, which was difficult because I didn't trust a lot of people because, you know, it was hard because if anything went wrong and if I didn't make it, because I left my job to work at New York Life, if anything didn't work, I would have been homeless because there was no back door. There was nowhere to go. I couldn't go home. There was no home. What I had that was it. Whatever was in my hand, that was it. So I couldn't go home. I couldn't go live with my uncles or my aunts. You know, that wasn't going to happen. Too independent for that. So I had to adjust my thinking and adjust my life to fit this new paradigm. And so I learned how to use what they taught me to create a life that I wanted. It was interesting.
Yeah, no. That's a great story. And similar to myself, and when I started working on Wall Street, I had a lot of great mentors who just kind of took me under their wing and saw the potential I had. And you know, one of my mentors, the late Joe Darcy, he was the one who said to me, you know, Anderson, the best form of job security is being good at what you do. You know, and he gave me the tools and taught me how to be good at what we were doing.
Mm.
But again, it was that kind of crisis of faith and that crisis of confidence. At some point, as good as I was, I started to feel like I didn't know what I was doing anymore.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
You know, and it was you know, and the thing I keep going back, you know, to the Hebrews, you know, the thing of he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. And so, you know, I was at this point where you know, I didn't know what I was doing anymore, and you know, and I just started to try to reconnect with God, try to find my faith. And someone told me, Greg, God is in the seeking. You know, and so I started seeking. I started church hopping, going from here to there, different churches, and I took this course on interfaith religions, and you know, just get just diversity, just you know, learning about different faiths, and it was working with a community, a diverse community of people, just trying different things. And this was a course that was actually led by a rabbi, late Rabbi Joseph Gelberman, and he would always talk about, you know, whatever your foundation is, you know, don't lose that. You know, it's never instead of, always in addition to. You're always looking to add to your foundation, add to your faith. What can I grab from here? What can I grab from there? And so it just was this period of seeking and searching. And you know, and someone said to me, Greg, maybe you should stop searching for God because God is not lost. And what they were saying to me, and this is something from his book Conversations with God, it's like go within or go without. Stop looking for God out there. Look inside. And
You
it
knew
just
that
led
from
me
before.
to
You like R&B music. You know, Parliament Funkadelic said that a long time ago. Free your mind. You're behind on follow. The kingdom of heaven is within. Even in the secular worlds, they told us that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. You know, there's nothing new under the sun.
Nope.
You know,
Nope.
and it's we're hearing it in many ways and in many forms. It's just, are we ready to hear it? Are we ready to follow it?
That's right.
You know,
That's right. You made some good points there. You know, when I was a disc jockey, when I was a DJ, I liked to play music that had a message. You know, if the music really, if the lyrics were kind of raunchy and things like that, unless that was the whole piece of the record. But I would literally just play the music and I would just X out the words because I would just overlap the music on top of it because the message of the music was so very important to me. So I would play Parliament Funkadelic, but I would make sure that I played that Free Your Mind. And I would put that overlay that on some other music so that you would hear that because that was a significant message. And you're right, you know, sometimes you run into things, you know, God is trying to find you and you're literally running in the opposite direction and you call yourself trying to find him.
Right.
You know, and he's seeking you. God he never moved. He's always been there.
Yeah.
He's standing there. He says, look, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I'll come in and sup with them. And that means that he'll come in and he'll eat with us. And, you know, I always say, listen, you don't eat with everybody. You don't eat with everybody. There's some people, you know, they say, yeah, why don't we, you know, get together and have a bite to eat? And you look and say, yeah, okay, I'll get back to you. Because you know you don't want to eat with that person because there's something about that person that the spirit doesn't recognize that spirit. And so you say, no, there's some people that you just will not dine with. But Christ says, I'll come in and I will sup with you. I'll put my differences, I'll look above your faults and I'll sit down at the table with all my glory because of you, because I care that much about you. So he's never been lost. It's us.
Right.
We're the ones.
Well, and the same person who told me that God wasn't lost and I need to stop searching is the same person who said to me, Greg, when you don't feel God's presence in your life, guess who moved away?
Yeah.
It's again, the message is deep. And so the thing for me is learning to practice the presence of God. It's just one of the things, and for me, it is always this thing of, what do I do, to replace my fear, and
Right.
having these little prayers, these little things,
Mm.
and one of the things in my career, I was always doing some form of marketing. The
Hmm.
true sales was a totally different thing. But, getting to the point where my phone would ring at work and this voice in my head would say, don't get it, don't answer it, let it go to voicemail. Now, you're supposed to be in marketing and sales. The first thing you're supposed to do is answer the phone. That could be my
Absolutely.
next yes.
Absolutely.
But for some reason, when that fear grips you, and when you're in that place where you're separated, the fear is telling you, no, let it go to voicemail. And so I started having to practice. I realized between the second and third ring, I could say a prayer. And that simple
Mm.
prayer was, I know that God is with me and will help me
Now
to
this.
think, say, and do the right thing.
Mm.
Then I pick up the phone. And I can tell you, whenever I remember to just say that simple prayer, a different person answered the phone. One, I answered the phone. The faith
Mm.
without work. The works is answering the phone. But inviting God to be on that call is a different person on the phone. It's just, in my little search and journey, and one of the people I connected with, it was a writer, a guy Emmett Fox, and he would have these essays, and he would have different passages of scripture. But he had a chapter in his book about God and business.
Mm.
And the key to that chapter was the point. It says every business deal, whether you're looking for a job or trying to make a sale, it's a negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing was, the key to every negotiation was to see God on both sides of the table, to know that God's will was being done with me and with the person with whom I was negotiating. That it was going to work out. I'm getting a message that my internet connection is unstable.
Yeah, it is.
Am
I
I
see you're
still
freezing up a
coming
little bit,
through okay?
but keep going. That's okay. We hear, as long as we hear you, you'll catch up. It'll
Okay,
restabilize itself.
okay. So again, it was just something else that I always, and to tell you, the evidence. I remember I was on Amtrak or Jersey Transit going to meetings I had in Trenton with the Hospital Finance Authority, the Housing Finance Authority, and the State Treasurer's Office. And I had this book, and I was reading the chapter God in Business, on the train, and I showed up for the first meeting. I think it was at the Hospital Finance Authority, and the gentleman behind the security desk, first thing he said to me was, "Yo, my man, you remind me of the pastor of my church." You know, and to me, I took that and said, "Okay, God's in Trenton. God's meeting me here."
Yes, sir.
You know,
Yes, sir.
and so that thing of just relaxing. There's another thing in there that it talks about. My work is always well done because God is the only doer.
Mm.
And so and I got that writer's block. I'll stop and I'll say that, okay, God, you take over, you do it, you do it.
Yep.
and
Yep.
then I
Yep.
pause and then I
Yep.
get back to it, and suddenly it flows. And so the thing of faith for me is asking God, letting God be God.
And that's the difficult thing for us to do a lot of times, is just getting out of the way and letting the Lord do what the Lord does. That's a challenge for us a lot of times because we want to be in control, but you said something about, you were talking about the idea of recognizing God on the other end of the table. That's an amazing thing because have you ever heard the word? I'm sure you have, namaste, or namaste, depending upon how you want to pronounce
Yeah,
it.
namaste.
Yeah.
The God in me salutes
So
the God in you.
exactly. And so in Christianity, we say the spirit recognizes the spirit. and it's true. When you see it, you know it, you recognize it, and you then become a part of it. And so you can be in business, but you can also have God in the business, because God is over the business, because he's the giver of every good and perfect gift, and everything belongs to him. I don't care what it is, all of it. So speaking of which, this is a good segue. I'm going to disappear for about a minute or two, and I'm going to go back, and you can do likewise. I'm going to go back, and we're going to recognize our advertisers and sponsors, and then we'll come back after I read the article again and put the challenge question out there, and we're going to bring in those individuals who have been viewing some of their comments and some of the things, because the question I've been asking them, it's been on the screen all evening long. So I'm expecting them to begin to respond to that question, and we're going to bring them into our conversation. So so that's what we're going to do.
Don't forget to support our advertisers and our sponsors, the JLR Company and J. Lauren Russell Consulting, LLC, for all of your church financial consulting needs. Check out our website, www.JLaurenRussell Consulting.com. That's www.JLaurenRussellConsulting.com. Or simply give us a call, 718-328-8096. 718-328-8096. If you want to train your trustees, if you want to develop your property, if you need a church loan, give us a call. We'll be there to help. Matters of Faith, the book, can be purchased at my Cash App, $Matters of Faith. The cost of the book is $22.80. That's $22.80. You can send your check or money order to the JLR Company, Post Office Box 301, New York, New York 10035. That's Post Office Box 301, New York, New York 10035. Get the book. It will absolutely bless your life. You can also get it as an ebook. All you need to do is go to www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. That's www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. The book has no shipping and handling if you get it as an ebook. And also check out the Eat Okra app for all Black-owned restaurants all over the nation. That's right, Eat Okra. And finally, subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel.
Let me add just one more thing. Get your subscription to Better Mag magazine today. A 2-year subscription is only $27.50. That's www.abettermag.com. www.abettermag.com. And now the article, Matters of Faith. That article can be found in my column, Matters of Faith, in the Bronx Chronicle, www.thebronxchronicle.com. The Yonkers Insider, www.yonkersinsider.blogspot.com. Better Mag Magazine, www.abettermag.com. And Pamela's Big Heart Newsletter, Matters of Faith. Hebrews chapter 11, verses 1 through 3, and then verse 6 from the New King James Version. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtained a good testimony. By faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which are visible. But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder to those who diligently seek him. Matters of faith. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in a hotel room in Easley, South Carolina, trying unsuccessfully to get onto the internet to broadcast that Monday night's episode of Matters of Faith, the radio show. A regular viewer called me just to give me a word of encouragement. I took the liberty to share with her my inability to get online and my apprehension that I wouldn't be able to broadcast. She suggested that I do something I had never done before, a Facebook Live broadcast. What a surprise I had when 750 people joined in almost immediately when I went live. I remember saying to myself, I'm going to do this all the time. Matters of Faith began as a column and article that first appeared in the Bronx Chronicle in 2014. The intention was to share God's word
by providing a theological perspective and a practical application of the Word of God to everyday issues. It was birthed in faith without knowing where the column would go, who it would touch, or how long it would last, but wanting to be obedient and please God. I hoped it would be a blessing to a wide and diverse audience near and far. I hoped it would be all those things and more. When I got a notification from Facebook that this past Tuesday was the 8th anniversary of my first Matters of Faith broadcast as its own Facebook group, I saw the substance of things I had hoped for and the evidence of things that could not be seen at the beginning. The column is still running in 5 publications and has become a broadcast. And the message now reaches people from shore to shore and nation to nation. The author of Hebrews was right on point when he said, he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. When God calls you to go, it only takes one person with faith. The 11th chapter of Hebrews lists several people who stepped out on faith. One person with a call from God, convicted by the Holy Spirit, walking with faith is all it takes. I'm grateful for the 9 years of writing and the 8 years of broadcasting. The Lord knows if I can do it, anybody can. It's just a matter of faith. Be blessed. And now let me ask you this question for the last time tonight. How can faith take you to places you have never been, do things you never did, and become the person you hoped you could be? I want to ask it one more time, just to make sure I'm clear. How can faith take you to places you have never been, do things you never did, and become the person you hoped you could be? Well, you've already met Gregory. You know the phenomenal man that he is. But I want to bring him back so that he can share with us again, drop some more pearls of wisdom on us so that we can continue to grow and maybe make a significant difference in our own communities the way he's done in his. So Matters of Faith family, would you welcome with me again for the second half of Matters of Faith, the radio show, my guest tonight, my good brother and my friend, Gregory Anderson.
All right, we're back. Stop that share. Hey, listen, do me a favor. Talk about, for a moment, the impact that Bridge Street has in the furtherance of the development of low-income communities, not only in Brooklyn, but as far and wide as you reach.
So, Bridge Street Development Corporation, our impact, our focus is within Central Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, Northern Crown Heights, and other communities, but primarily Central Brooklyn. But in terms of impact, Bridge Street Development Corporation has developed over 600 units of affordable housing. We provide to our senior residents, independent living, low-income housing to approximately 93 seniors. We also, through that building into our community engagement group and tenant services group, provide a wide range of services to the senior residents and the surrounding community. We have a youth workforce and civic engagement. We have programs in 2000, the first year of the pandemic, we had 350 summer youth employment program, young people who we provided internships to. This past summer, we provided internships to close to 1,200 young people ages 14 to 24. So these are young people who received a job, an internship, and most of these were with small businesses within the community that they live. We also provide a wide range of civic engagement, financial literacy that we do for our youth, our seniors, and our businesses. So everything we do is about community engagement. Everything we do is about financial empowerment. One of the most impactful areas of our work over the past 3 years has been our work with small businesses. Bridge Street for over 11 years has had a close working relationship. We were a co-founder, fiscal sponsor of the Tompkins Avenue Merchants Association. Well, in the first year of COVID, we received a grant from Small Business Services to do a commercial district needs assessment along 5 commercial corridors within Bedford-Stuyvesant, including Tompkins Avenue. And during the first year of the pandemic, most businesses lost 70% of their income. What we did, just based on the information and the data that we gathered through this commercial district needs assessment, we did an open streets program where we closed off 6 blocks along Tompkins the first year from May to October, every Sunday, except holidays and rainouts. But what we did was we opened up the streets so the businesses could bring their business to the street. And we put together family-friendly programming to bring the community to the businesses. Within the first year, many of the businesses had fully recovered some of that lost income. Our Open Streets program in the first year of the Open Streets citywide was named one of the top open streets in New York City. Now, needless to say, when we were first doing this planning, there were people who said it couldn't be done in Bedford-Stuyvesant, and there were people who said it shouldn't be done in Bedford-Stuyvesant. We've done it for 3 years straight. Each year, we've been recognized as one of the best. And while there are always issues and things that we work through with the community, NYPD has told us that for 3 years, we've been incident-free. And so this is just some of the work that we've been doing. We've taken that relationship with the Tompkins Avenue Merchants Association, and we've expanded that to now we are working with 5 additional merchants associations in Bedford-Stuyvesant and Crown Heights. And it's just really the basis of our work is bringing the community together. The thing is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So it's bringing the community together. You know, of course, for small business owners, they're usually too focused on running my business to really look up and say, if we come together, we can get more resources, we can get more programming, we can get more things done together than we can do individually. So those are just some of the areas. The thing that we've done that's been new programming is working with the migrant community. And again, you talk about leap of faith. You know, when I joined Bridge Street right before COVID started, and again, the work that we do at Bridge Street, you know, when my board tells me, Greg, you're doing a good job, I tell them we've hired well. The thing that George Fraser said of building up people, we've built up a great team at Bridge Street. You know, and my job is to let them do what they do best and get out of their way. But try to provide the resources they need. But, you know, so much of our work has not been, you know, with a lot of nonprofits, all of us are under-resourced. And so with many, it's, you know, chasing the dollars and, okay, what are the funders asking us to do? And we'll do that. But our approach has been, we need to do what the community is calling for at this time and trust that the dollars will follow. And so that was a giant leap of faith that, you know, the evidence to this day, knock on wood, you know, has been rewarded, you know, and we're looking to bring in additional resources. So we are, you know, impacting the community every day in so many different ways. We have a very holistic approach to community development that really is about bringing the community together and building partnerships and collaborations to do things more effectively.
You know, you mentioned that, and I heard you use the word, but everything that you said speaks of collaboration. Everything speaks of collaboration with the staff, with the community, with the businesses, with the development, with the homes, everything is about collaboration. Everything is about working with people and helping them to sort of become the persons that they were supposed to be, to join in the collaborative effort so that everything gets done. And it's done so that, you know, I like what George said when he talked about building people and creating that kind of synergy. because if you get people inspired to the extent that they buy into what it is that's being done, you don't have to supervise them at all. They do it. They do it for you. You know, they just go and they just keep going and they make it happen, and you just sit back and watch the engine turn. You know, and not to say that you sit back. Not, I don't mean that you just, you know, let it go itself, because you can't expect what you don't inspect. But of course, you want to make sure that people are given the necessary tools that they need in order to get done what they need to get done, and the collaboration just kind of continues to happen. And once the wheel starts moving, it continues to move, because that's what synergy does.
Well, and I tell you, there are times when I do sit back, and those are the best meetings that I have with our funders, our partners, is when I get on we're in a meeting or a Zoom call, a Teams meeting, and I have my team there, and I just sit back and be quiet and let them do their thing. And those are the meetings that you know, that just shows that this is an organization that is successful,
Yeah,
that is dynamic, that is doing great work. And most of all, it's not just about me. It's about this team.
yeah, yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting. And my Rotary, my governorship, my slogan, my motto, my personal is not me, but we, because we do this. You know, and there's nothing like hurting a bunch of people who don't get paid for doing what they do. So you if you don't understand that you are the PT Barnum, that you go around, you beat the drum, you get people excited about doing what they do and being who they are. So listen to this. One of my Cheryl says that the original Bridge Street Church is in Metrotech in Brooklyn, once a part of Polytech University, now a part of NYU Tandem School of Engineering. So
that is new information for me. So I'm going to say thank you, Cheryl.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, if I'm not mistaken, Bridge Street's an old church, right?
Yeah.
The structure, the building itself.
Well, so they've since moved from I think they've moved several times. The church is now on Stuyvesant Street. It's not the original location.
But is it still an old edifice?
It's fairly old, but not I'd be guessing to say, you know, when the current building was built.
The reason I asked is because I actually did a homegoing service in Brooklyn, and I cannot think. I was sitting there trying to remember what the name of the church is, and I cannot. But it was also a church that was a part of the Underground Railroad in Brooklyn. And so I got the paraphernalia when I left, and I put it somewhere. I don't know where it is. I don't want to try to look for it while we're on the air, but it was an amazing thing, because there are some churches that were really a part of, and they're still standing, and they're still their original facade as part of the Underground Railroad. So it's good to know that about Bridge Street, because I really didn't know that. Really didn't. Yeah. So here's another comment that was made. That this is my friend Richard. Yeah, he'll be a guest on sooner or later. He's Dr. Russell. Last week you talked about being thankful, which I shared with you about how the Lord blessed me. However, that would not have been possible without faith to move to South Carolina and make a new start in life, not knowing the outcome 26 years ago. Faith is the assurance of the conversation of things not seen. The word assurance in this verse refers to a feeling of certainty or confidence. It is a connection that something is true and will come to pass. Well, that's true, because I know, because I remember the day well. I remember when you left. I remember taking you down there. So Richard is a dear friend of mine. I've known him since we were like 12 years old. So we kind of grew up together. And then Andrew and I worked together over at Manhattan State Psychiatric Center. He says, faith without works is dead. I remember hearing the statement from my mother. I have grown to believe in a power greater than myself that I choose to call God. 27 years ago, when I became clean and sober, I began to have faith in God. I joined a Masonic order, and I was called upon to give a lecture, which I did not know how to do. So I stepped out on faith and not by sight. And now I'm writing wellness lectures on diabetes, high blood pressure, and cancer. That's amazing. That's amazing. And then Barbara, my niece, says, the great thing about faith is it don't require a large amount of it. The Bible says, if you have faith as a grain of a mustard seed, you shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall be moved. And nothing shall be impossible unto you. Matthew 17:20. A mustard seed is such a small seed. I have a bunch of them here. I mean, literally, it's about the size of a pinhead, but they grow into huge trees, huge trees. So if you have the faith of a mustard seed, there's nothing that's impossible for you. So, by the way, everyone, listen, the question that I'm asking, I want you to respond to is, how can faith take you to places you've never been, do things you never did, and become the person you hoped you could be? Now, I want you to respond to that because Gregory and I are going to talk about your responses. So we want to make sure that you're part of this conversation. So how can faith take you to places? Maybe it's already taken you to places that you've never been, have helped you to do things that you never did, and is making you or has already made you into the person that you hoped you could be. Now I say that with this, right? I say that with this in mind. I've been doing some in one of my daily devotions. You know, I like Ayana Van Zant. I read a lot of her material. And so this month, she's talking about in her book, what is it? Let me just make sure I get it right. I don't want to mispronounce the name of her book. That wouldn't be nice at all. Until Today. And in this month, the month of November, she's focusing on, she's focusing on service. Once you know the truth, you cannot go back to not knowing. Living the truth that you know is the greatest service you can offer the world. I thought that was pretty cool. But then I read something, I think it was yesterday, that was really moving to me. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to read part of it. It does not serve you or the world for you to behave as if you are powerless. And I'm going to change that powerless to faithless. It is an insult to the creator of your life, in whose image and likeness you were created, for you to bow or bend down to conditions and situations that are beneath you. It is arrogant of you to assume that you are incapable because you don't believe you are capable. You have gifts. You have the gift of intellect. You can think yourself into and out of any situation with which you are confronted. You have the ability to speak for yourself. You can defend yourself, promote yourself, encourage yourself, teach yourself, correct yourself. That is power. You have a heart. Through it, you can experience love, grief, compassion, empathy, joy, peace, and an entire realm of emotions that let you know that you are alive. While you are alive, you can create, destroy, and rebuild something as significant as a Lego house, or something as significant as the capital city of a state. You can create another life. Through that life, you have the opportunity to share words of compassion, to express feelings of love, to know the joys of sharing, and to experience the wonderment of seeing a life grow before your eyes. That is power. And I'm going to change that word again to faith. You are faithful. Now, why don't you try acting like it? So I like that. I like that. And I was again, I read a lot of stuff. I'm like you, bro. I collect quotes, and sometimes I write my own. My book's full of them. But I like one of the things that you said earlier. You said faith is a muscle that has to be exercised. If you don't exercise your faith, don't expect your faith to take you anywhere, to help you overcome anything, nor to make you into the person that you were intended to be. You have to exercise your faith. You have to step out and do things that you normally wouldn't do because you're looking at it from your perspective. You have to change your perspective. Brenda says, praise the Lord Jesus, God. A good evening to you, servant of Almighty God, Most High in Jesus. And Cheryl says, the Bridge Street congregation is not in Metrotech. The original building that was part of the Underground Railroad still stands in Metrotech, which was built around the church. It was first used as the student center, then admissions. Then she says, I do not know, she's clarifying these things, right? I do not know how it is being used now.
That to me, the thing of the help is always there, you know.
Yes, sir.
And I didn't have the answer. It comes. If you don't mind,
no, I don't.
It was great to hear what you read. But there's another take on that, and there was something that was read once, and again, this is my understanding. The quote is attributable to Nelson Mandela, but I think it was originally written by Marion Williamson.
That's correct. I know exactly what you're going to read.
Oh,
go ahead and read it.
Right. Yeah,
I read it a lot. I love it. I love it. Go ahead.
Okay. Our deepest fear
That's right.
is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful and beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be so brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about playing small so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
You know, that's one of my favorite quotes. In fact, if you watched Denzel Washington's movie, The Great Debaters, he also quoted it. So this is that is an amazing quote, but it's so accurate. I think we downplay ourselves. We lower ourselves to a point because other people feel uncomfortable around us because we're being our authentic selves. And so, you know, the interesting thing is the liberation that it gives others when you are your authentic self for them to do likewise. Now, only small people, you know, the old saying is small people talk about people and, you know, big people talk about ideas. And so we talk about the idea of manifesting yourself, you know, self-actualization, becoming the person that you were intended to be. That's the challenge. Many of us won't take that challenge because it's frightening. You have to step out on faith to become the person that you were destined to be. You cannot do it without stepping out into uncharted and unnavigated waters. You can't do it. Now, others have done it, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it. And it doesn't mean that you have to follow in their footsteps. Create your own path. Follow the path that the Lord has laid before you. There are obstacles, but that's the road that you're supposed to be on. The obstacles make you strong. They don't tear you down, they build you up.
So just you mentioned Ilana Van Zant, and I just wanted to, when I was going through that period of searching and seeking, and it was one of her books, and it was the title of the book that drew me to it. And the title was, I'm pretty sure, was One Day My Soul Just Opened Up. And you know, it was just something that, you know, for me, it's just symbolic of what happens when we step into our fullness and step into our genuine self. It's opening up our soul to let our light shine.
You know, we were born to let our light shine. We really, really were. When we don't, that's when we really create the problems, when we do not allow ourselves to be who we were intended to be. That's when the problem comes in, because then we begin to sort of emulate and imitate others, but that's not who you are. You know, I'm a preacher, and you know, I don't try to preach like anybody. I don't do that because I can't. You know, I just try to be me. You know, I try to be me to the best of my ability, and if it doesn't come through, it doesn't come through. This is my authentic self. This is who I am. You know, there was a time that I was, you know, that I was reluctant to do this, Brother Gregory. I really was, because it's people say, well, well, actually, it didn't matter what they said, but I was concerned about what they said. I was concerned about things that they may not have ever said, but it was what was going on between these two ears that was creating the problem. I had to get out of my own head, and just be who I am. And so when I, you know, and then, you know, I remember what the Lord told me when he called me into ministry. He said, do my will, and I'll take care of all your needs according to my riches and glory. Now, when I left New York Life as a manager, sales manager, opened my own agency, did all of that stuff, left that because the Lord called me. I mean, when I tell you, I have seen some boulders in my way, you know, and particularly, you know, when you think about a 26, 27-year-old kid making in 1984, 85, $85,000 a year. That was a lot of money.
Yeah.
It was a lot of money. You know, and it seemed like that it was going to be like that forever. You know, I worked hard at it, but it seemed that way. But you know, it didn't turn out that way. You know, because I was looking at it progressively. I said, well, you know, if I continue on this track, I will be making X number of dollars by the time I get to that age, and I'll be able to retire in my 30s as a multi-millionaire, because that was my goal. But that wasn't what the Lord had planned. Like you said, before we went on the air, you said, yeah, the Lord laughs at us as we make our plans. So as I was making these plans, the Lord was laughing and said, yeah, you just go right on ahead and do that. That's not what I have in mind for you, son. But you can just go right on ahead and do that. I got something else in mind for you. He's amazing.
So
Go ahead.
I was going to, in response to the question that you posed to the audience, there was something else, if I may read, because to me, it's the answer to the question of, you know, who am I? Who do I want to be? What am I here for? And this is something, again, this is from Emmett Fox. This is from his book, Power Through Constructive Thinking. And it's an essay. I'll just read two really short paragraphs. But it's called Your Heart's Desire. And just in the middle of the paragraph, it says, already in your life, from time to time, God has whispered in your heart just that very wonderful thing, whatever it is, that he is wishing you to be and to do and to have. And that wonderful thing is nothing less than what is called your heart's desire. Nothing less than that. The most secret, sacred wish that lies deep down at the bottom of your heart. The wonderful thing that you hardly dare to look at or to think about. The thing that you would rather die than have anyone else know of, because it seems to be so far beyond anything that you are or have at the present time, that you fear that you will be ridiculed if the mere thought of it were known. That is the very thing that God is wishing for you to do or to be for him. And I want to jump to the end. And it just says, remember that this is the call of God. And when God calls you to his service, he pays all the expenses and whatever kind of coin, whatever you may require to answer that call, God will provide. Money, opportunity, introductions, knowledge, training, freedom, leisure, strength, and courage. All he will furnish if you be about his business and not your own.
You know, I'm glad that you found your mama's faith.
Me too.
Because now it won't leave you alone. I love that. I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. That was great. That was really
Thank you. Yeah.
Let me share something with you. I want to share something with you since it was shared with me, and I want to show you what was shared with me just a moment ago. So this is for everybody to see. The old Bridge Street Church.
God. There you go. Now, actually, I've seen it. Actually, I have the book with that photo in my office.
There you go. Well, that's it. She took that picture. She said she took the picture when she was there. So that's an amazing thing. She says, let me see. Yeah, she said I took the picture the day the plaque was unveiled. It was unveiled. So what a wonderful thing. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you. And as my mother said, everything we need will be provided. And there it is.
Absolutely. You know, when you think about it, if you just have that faith that my niece talked about, the faith of a mustard seed, you know, just enough faith to get you from one place to the next, just enough faith to tell you that all things work together for good to those who love the Lord, to let you know that whatever you're going through, that's exactly what you're doing. You're not stuck in it. It's not something that you're going to endure for the rest of your life. It's just that you're going through. And by the way, if it so happens, this is the most amazing thing for me. If it so happens that that's the last thing that you experience in the land of the dying, which is where we are, then the wonderful thing is that Jesus said, I'm going to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I'm coming back to receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. So when it's time to leave here, he says, I got a permanent residence for you, that you'll never get old, you'll never get tired, no more sickness, no more dying, no more tears. Land flowing with milk and honey, you'll be drinking from waters that never run dry. You'll be in paradise for all time. I mean, that's like, you know, you can't lose. I mean, think about it. You ever been in a game that even if you lost, you won? Paul said it well. Paul said, to die for me is gain. I'm staying because of you, because I prefer to be with Christ. But you know, living is good, but dying is better. So you can't lose. I mean, with faith like that, you can't lose. There's no way that you can lose. So my question that I often ask, and I'm going to ask you this tonight, everybody, what would you dare to do if you knew it would be impossible for you to fail? You can answer that question too, guys. What would you dare to do if you knew that it would be impossible for you to fail? Oh, Richard, you misquoted. It's not meters of faith, but matters of faith. So Richard says from the book of matters of faith, he put meters, but it's matters of faith. With faith and a few stones, read page 45. So this is the book, by the way, y'all. This is the book he's referring to. So if I go to page 45, on page 45, it says, with faith and a few stones, from Samuel 17:4, and then 50 from the New Living Translation. It says, then Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, came out of the Philistine ranks to face the forces of Israel. He was over 9 feet tall. So David triumphed over the Philistine with only a sling and a stone, for he had no sword. And so, Richard, were you referring to a specific sentence in there? But I will read this. In the story of David and Goliath, there was no one in Israel who could defeat the over 9-foot Philistine soldier named Goliath. The challenge was clear. If he kills me, then we will be your slaves. But if I kill him, You will be our slaves. The least likely of people to step up to the challenge was David, a young shepherd boy who went on to the front line because his father told him to bring cuts of cheese to the captains of the army and check to see how his brothers were getting along. He found that none of the soldiers were brave enough to challenge Goliath, so he volunteered himself. The king thought he was being ridiculous and told him the same. But David responded by telling him how he slew lions and bears to protect his sheep, even snatching them out of their mouths and beating them to death with a club if necessary. He concludes by telling King Saul that if the Lord can do this with lions and bears, he will most certainly do the same with this pagan Philistine. So the end of it, last couple of sentences, there was no possibility of retaliation by Goliath. When he was defeated, he was completely and utterly destroyed. When the Lord fights your giants, you are more than a conqueror. To defeat this giant, and whatever giant you might be facing, all it takes is faith and a few smooth stones. That's J. Lauren Russell's writing there. That's my writing. It's from my book. So thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. Remind me, send me back to my quotes. So yeah, and it's interesting, right? We all have giants in our lives. We all have seemingly insurmountable obstacles that we run across. But you and God represent a majority. And it's recognized in faith. Do you know, Gregory, that in the Bible it talks about a lot of people being healed, but all of them were healed because of their faith. The woman with the issue of blood, your faith have made you whole. Faith, the size of a mustard seed can move mountains, can cause worlds to spin, can get you, orbiting the earth. Just faith, just believing, just believing what others would say is impossible. But faith says all things are possible.
And that's, I think the thing with faith, and I say to people sometimes, if you have no faith, you can borrow mine.
There you go.
Right now, this moment, I got a lot, but now hold on to it, because tomorrow I might be in one of those places where I need to borrow some of it back.
That's right.
But that's the thing of having it and sharing it, and I think that's the thing of how we inspire and empower others. It's a thing of trusting.
Right.
Trust me. Right now, this moment, the thing you're talking about, dying. Right? It's, every day above ground is a good day. But when you talk about death, it reminded me of a quote, because people sometimes ask, a question, is there life after death? And it was a quote, I can't remember who it was from, but the person said, I believe in life after birth. And to me, that's the thing of get busy living. It's just, don't worry about death. It's just get busy living life today and embracing life today, and knowing, the thing about faith is it's faith takes you from doubt to belief to knowing. And there's moments when I know, and those are the moments where I'm at my best, because those are the moments where I'm putting God first. I think what would I dare to do? I would dare to do more fully, more powerfully what's put in front of me today and every day, knowing that I cannot fail. And so, the thing of, I could have my head in the clouds with a hope and a dream, but I've got to have my feet on the ground today. What is God's will for me today? And just moving through the day, and that's the thing, the thing of putting God first, and I don't know why I was thinking of it. Was this old World War II movie. It was God is my co-pilot, and what I realized for me, no, I think I'm going to let God be the pilot and I'll be the co-pilot.
There you
You
go.
know, the thing I was talking about co-creating with God.
Right.
And I have a friend of mine to think about, taking control and using my will. A friend of mine said, yeah, every time I get behind the steering wheel, God gets out the car. And that's just it's just the way I'm taking over. I got this, So let me drive. No, let God drive, and let me be the passenger. I got to do the work. Somebody, God doesn't move parked cars. I got to do the work, but I got to let God lead, and I need to follow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good, Gregory. That's right. Whenever you let the Lord be the co-pilot, that means that you are in control.
Mm.
Who's sitting on the throne of your life? I mean, who's sitting there? You may sit there, but you're not the king. You sitting in the throne doesn't belong to you. So we've got to get it right. We're talking about great sayings by great people, and we've been reading some great quotes. Well, Howard Thurman, you know Howard Thurman, great mystic and theologian, he said something that was really interesting. He said, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and do it. Because what the world needs are more people who have life.
Mm. Mm.
So, I've been, when you were talking earlier, you were talking about, Bridge Street and things that they do. And I just thought about being on different boards of directors and making commitment early in life to give back, to be able to make deposits into people's lives in different ways. And one of them is by getting on a board of directors. Now, I would encourage anybody, if you've never done that before, you don't have to be a scholar to sit on a board of directors. You don't have to be, a person that has, incredible educational background, or even a large or huge amount of success behind you in terms of being at the leadership levels. All you have to do is have a desire to serve and to give. And if you do that, there's a lot of things that needs to be done, that has to be done on boards of all different shapes, sizes, and fashions. And you may not be the person for that board, but you may be a person for this board. And so whatever it takes for you to get to a point that you can serve, because that's what Thurman was talking about, finding the place, finding a thing that makes you alive. There's organizations, there are people doing things that when you see them, when you are part of them, you catch fire. Your fire, literally, you're already burning, but the inspiration begins to well up in you. And you want to find that place so that you can begin to share all of the stuff that you have inside of you that's eating you alive, because it doesn't belong to you. It was given to you to give away. You got to give it away. You can't take it with you. When you leave here, guess what? Everything you got is going to stay here. Unless, well, let's put it this way. The things that you have that you gave away will stay here. The things that you did not give away will die with you. So give it away. Find a place that you can serve, and serve thankfully and joyfully. And don't worry about what other people say about you. Well, they think they so-and-so because they doing such and such. No, I'm just doing such and such because the Lord gave it to me to give away, and I'm giving it away. Can't take it with me.
Yeah.
And be a blessing. And that's what you were saying. And I so appreciate this conversation. You have no idea how much I'm appreciating it. By the way, I never really know which direction, we're going to go in any given evening, because, I don't program it that way. I just write the article. The Lord inspires me to write it. I write it, and it goes wherever the Lord wants it to go, because I don't know who I'm going to touch. I remember when I preached, because I preach whatever I write, So I preached a sermon yesterday, and one of the deacons at the church said to me, "Thank you for my sermon. Thank you for my sermon." She said, "I needed that." Now I didn't know that when the Lord gave it to me. I don't know what he's preparing. See, that's what I'm saying. When you get where he's taking you, he'll have prepared you before time. He'll have given you everything that you need. So speaking of need, it's 9:50. We got about 10 minutes left. So I want to turn it over to you, Brother Gregory. I want you to share with us in any way you want. You can share with us, whatever your thoughts are. And then I'm going to close out with some words that the Lord has placed on my heart. So you feel free to share, and I'm going to share my screen, and we will close out that way with you sharing your thoughts, and then I'll come back with mine.
So I think that the thoughts that I would want to share, and again, and I appreciate your not scripting, programming, structuring this. One of the things that I've learned to do is to show up, let things unfold, and trust, everything is in divine order. But I want to echo what you were talking about in terms of service. And I don't know if this is a quote I mentioned earlier, but I'm pretty sure it was Marion Wright Edelman who said, "Service is the rent we pay for living on this planet." And I think, for me, when I talked about that period of work and not knowing what I'm doing and where I'm at, why I'm here, and part of that process led to this, kind of mini epiphany of realizing that my job is what I do, it's not who I am. And that really led to my, doing more service. Now, even though most of the work I've been doing in public finance was doing financings for charter schools or for housing, there was an aspect of service in the work I was doing, but it was a little too far removed to some extent. So it's just, and that's when I joined the board of WEAC and joined other boards and doing other work that had me, involved with more community-based organizations. So I would encourage also anyone out there who, just trying to figure out what's next, find a board of an organization whose mission resonates with you. What's the work they're doing that speaks to you? And just show up and say, how can I be of service? And sometimes it may not be a board opening. How can I volunteer? What can I do? There are so many needs in our community, and there's certainly a need within your community that you were placed here to help fill. So I would just echo that. Find a service that speaks to you and just get out there and do it. And the thing I learned about service, and I remember saying this to someone, it seems like I'm getting more out of it than I'm putting into it. Even though I was putting a lot into it. And they said to me, and that's the goal, that's the beauty of service. So I'll end there and let you take it on home, Brother Russell.
Well, listen, I so appreciate what you've shared with us tonight. I think that your presence has been a blessing to me. I don't know about others, but it's certainly been a blessing to me. It's touched me in ways that you can't possibly know. But based upon the comments that have been made so far, the things that I see, I'm not the only one. I am not the only one. So that's the wonderful thing about this program, this broadcast, this ministry that the Lord has laid on my heart, is that it touches people and it takes them to places that I could never imagine. And so I'm delighted that you are here with us tonight. I'm looking for my closing comments because I put them down somewhere and I thought I had them open, ready to go, and they disappeared. So now I got to find them, but I'm going to find them, and then we're going to close out. But I'm just so excited because of the fact that that you took time out to come. And then to find out we have so many things in common. I looked at your Facebook page too, And I found out that we have a lot of common friends, we have a lot in common. As I thought about what it meant to be faithful, I began thinking of regular and ordinary situations where we must make decisions that either become the building blocks on which our faith is built, or they are the stumbling blocks over which we fall. The interesting thing is that it's our choice. We get to choose. The writer of the book of Hebrews had a primary objective, which was to encourage his readers to hold fast to what they had, and what they had was faith. That same encouragement is applicable to the readers of the book today. He may not have been writing to us, but he was most certainly writing for us. He identifies several individuals who made decisions that got their names in the Faith Hall of Fame. Noah moved with godly fear and built an ark when no one had even ever seen or heard of a thing called rain. Abraham left his home not knowing where he was going. Sarah, after a bit of doubt, believed God and bore a son at the ripe old age of 90. Abraham was 100. Isaac blessed his sons Jacob and Esau. Jacob blessed each of Joseph's sons while on his deathbed. Joseph prophesied about the Israelites departing from Egypt and taking his bones with them. The faith that the writer of Hebrews wrote about and the faith we are talking about is not faith in a building, not faith in a pastor, not faith in a preacher, not faith in a minister, and not faith in a teacher. The faith he wrote about is the faith in God, faith in Jesus Christ. We must keep the faith in the God we serve, who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we could ever ask or think. When God calls on you, it only takes one person with faith, one person with the call from God, convicted by the Holy Spirit. Walking with faith is all it takes. I'm grateful for 9 years of writing and the 8 years of broadcasting. The Lord knows, I said it once, I'll say it again. If I can do it, anybody can. What matters is your faith. Thanks, my brother, for sharing your time and your life with us tonight. You have enriched our lives by showing us what life of faith looks like when applied in a practical way. You, my brother, personify the essence of this broadcast. You have taken the word and made it practical. That's what I like about our connection. And we didn't do a lot of talking. We just met and the spirits clicked and we knew that we were friends. We just never met before. So we knew it day one. So I thank you for the enrichment. I thank you for the transparency. And thank you for the jewels that you dropped tonight. We should have done this last year, but the Lord works at his will, not ours. Consider coming back and being my guest again. In fact, check your calendar, man. Check it now and give me a call and plan on your return visit with the Matters of Faith family. Is that all right?
Yes, you got it.
Okay,
Will
good.
do.
Well, I'm taking that as a
you.
yes. I'm taking that as a yes.
Yes.
Now, listen, don't forget our advertisers and sponsors. And by the way, we always have room for more advertisers and more sponsors. The JLR company, JLR Consulting LLC, that's my company for all your church financial needs. Call 718-328-8096. Visit our website, www.jlaurenrussellconsulting.com. It's not about the castle, y'all. It's about the kingdom. Matters of Faith, the book, y'all got a little taste of it. I read something out of it. If you don't have the book, make sure you get it. You can use my Cash App. The book is $23.92. I know I was saying 22, but the cost of postage goes up every day. So it's $23.92 that covers shipping and handling. Or get it as an ebook. www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. There's no shipping and no handling. The book is $20. You'll get it immediately. You have it on your phone or your device, and you can read it anytime you like. Better Mag Magazine, www.abettermag.com. Hey, Doc, have you ever heard of Better Mag Magazine? Are you familiar with that, Greg?
No.
Got to get this. It's a wonderful magazine. It's published quarterly. A 2-year subscription is only $27.50. It's Black owned. I've had Gloria, who's a publisher and the editor. of the magazine I've had on my show several times. They carry my article now. They're a wonderful organization, wonderful read. Make sure you subscribe to it. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Don't forget. Telephone, text, email, message, any way you do it, but tell a friend to join us regularly on Monday nights for Matters of Faith, the radio show. We're always live on Matters of Faith and the J. Lauren Russell Facebook groups. Now, when the show is over, when this show is over, we drop each episode on our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. That's why I ask every week that you subscribe, like, and share the Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Now, as I said earlier, the Lord has placed it on my heart that in January, we're going to start broadcasting on YouTube. Now, if there's a way for me to broadcast on both YouTube and Facebook, I'll do it. But if not, I'm going to switch over to the YouTube platform. So please, ma'am, please, sir, subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Now, the Lord bless you, the Lord keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Now, if no one's told you this today, let me be the first to say that I love you, and there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. So get used to it. God bless you all. I'll see you next week, same time.